So the Battlefield 5 reveal just wrapped itself up, and we have close to a legitimate metric ton of information to go through. Not just everything that was dropped at the actual reveal, but everything that was dropped at the actual reveal, plus details behind all of the things that were dropped at the actual reveal from a Game Informer article that was posted as soon as the reveal ended. Pretty much everything you need to know about Battlefield 5's World War II environment. We're going to go through that right now, right here in this video. If you want to do yourself a huge favor, put the video in the background and just listen along. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to go through everything that we know and also bring you guys some of my personal thoughts on these changes, on these new additions. I will say this. This is undoubtedly the biggest overhaul we have gotten to the Battlefield experience since Battlefield 3. Maybe even since Bad Company 2. Like, just so many huge changes going on here. I mean, this is really impressive stuff. I think for the most part, these are things the community is going to be excited about. There are definitely some things to be cautiously optimistic about, even some things to be concerned about, but I like a lot of the changes here, and in general, this gets me super, super excited for Battlefield this year. Let me start by saying I was really into the Battlefield reveal itself. Trevor Noah and his jokes aside, I think he did an alright job. He's obviously trying to be the comic relief there. I just didn't think we needed it. I really enjoyed seeing the devs, members of the actual dev team, up on screen. Lars up there just talking about their game, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that deeply. I know they appreciated the ability to do that as people who have spent the last many years now endlessly working on this project. You could just see how happy they were to be up there talking about their game for everyone, and that was really special. I enjoyed the reveal being done that way. Let's go ahead, move forward. Start at the beginning. I've just got a list here. I mean, there's so much. We're gonna try and do things in order here by taking a look at a lot of the core mechanical changes. And I guess we'll start with that brand new shockwave system. This is very much tied into the new or an improved destruction mechanics. This shockwave system will send debris, real-time debris, flying all over the place, creating shrapnel, sending chunks of buildings flying around, but it'll also push around players. In fact, we see an image within the reveal that dropped at the end of the reveal trailer, I should say, the gameplay reveal, that showcases a large bomb being dropped from a plane, launching players in that vicinity. In first person, we get to see this onto their back. Now, the cool thing about that whole shockwave system is that it doesn't actually disable players when it knocks them on the ground. I really appreciate this. It does knock you on your butt, but because of some changes to the first-person animation system, the movement system, you just land on your back and you're able to continue shooting, get up, and essentially move out of that prone position once again. And that is actually a huge part of the new movement system, is we've got full 360 degrees prone. If you've ever played Metal Gear Solid 5 and seen Snake roll onto his back from a stomach prone position or lay on his side to fire on his side under a vehicle, yeah, you can do all of that inside of Battlefield 5. You can even backpedal while in prone now. There's just a whole lot more flexibility and control of the player while we're down in the thick of it. And I love this because you spend a lot of time prone in Battlefield, just hanging on that last thread of your HP, trying to stay alive. Maybe your building gets detonated on, you know, all of a sudden that wall is now a ledge for somebody to climb over. You rotate on your back, start engaging people as they mantle over the ledge. It's going to be awesome. This is that sort of improvement to the general depth of the Battlefield experience that I personally have always wanted. I'm glad to see we're getting some of that. Now, the whole movement system goes one step further, because not only can the player affect the game world more than they've ever been able to before, but the world itself will also affect the player in return. So running through mud, deep water will slow the player down. Tall grass, if you run through like a bunch of weed or something like that, it'll move more the faster you move. So if you're prone crawling through that, you want to go slow. And we actually are going to carry real momentum as we run into cover now. So running into cover, like, you know, bashing up against a wall, whether we're crouched or standing, is actually going to be a real mechanic. You know, just like in Gears of War when they sort of slam into cover, we're getting that same thing here in first person, and that excites me. They also talked about the ability to slip on wet rocks and mud, you know, kind of slowing the player down a little bit, maybe throwing you out of a sprint or something like that. There's a bunch of people who are going to hate that mechanic, but I love the idea of having to look at my environment and say, if I'm going to run across this street, what's on the ground? Just like in real life. Is that dry dirt? Is that stone? Is that gravel? Or is that a big, sloppy, wet pile of mud. I probably should pick a different route, or at least acknowledge that I'm just going to have to like slide or go prone halfway through that and hope I make it across safe. Big fan of that, actually. In terms of improved destruction, again, we talked about the shockwave system. We're also going to be seeing improvements to terrain deformation from vehicles, explosives, large caliber impacts, so on and so forth. We're also getting a full-blown bullet penetration system here for large caliber rounds. So if you've got the Tommy gun, 45 caliber, probably pretty good at shredding through wooden doors. But if you've got a piece of masonry, a low concrete wall that some individuals are hiding behind, you're going to want to break out the support class and its large caliber round light machine guns and shred your way through that. Real-time bullet penetration happening for large caliber rounds. Yes, yes, yes. This feels like the buff the support class has always needed. Forget suppression mechanics. I can now blow holes through the side of concrete walls and pull people out of cover. I couldn't be more excited about that change, guys. Speaking of shooting stuff, again, shooting mechanics completely overhauled. We now have no more random recoil patterns. None of that nonsense from Battlefield 1. We've got full-blown predictive recoil. You can learn the recoil patterns of all of the weapons in the game, develop a level of mastery for them. This is going to make shooting far more skill-based. A lot of you are going to be very excited about this. Now, in regards to shooting and a lot of the class mechanics, we've got a lot of changes, starting with the concept of scarcity. DICE is very obviously trying to ensure that players stick together more often than not in a squad, because everyone starts with a much more minimal amount of ammunition. So if you're playing the recon role and you go off somewhere in the middle of a forest to start sniping people, and all you have is the ammo that you left with and no one around to resupply you, you're going to run out of ammo actually very quickly. They want to ensure that players who spray blindly, waste ammunition, actually run out of ammunition. This means that you have to be near resupplies, whether it's a resupply point that someone establishes, picking ammo up off of dead enemies, or getting resupplied by your actual support class within your squad. I love the idea of this. I think for far too long, first-person shooters, especially the Battlefield franchise, have been just throwing us hordes and hordes of ammo. The idea that we really have to look at our ammo count, pay attention to it, and really consider the value of running a supply within our squad is something that really excites me. It might be a frustrating experience for lone wolf players, but, you know, you're just going to have to get used to salvaging. And if anything, that adds more to that lone wolf playstyle. Those of you who just want to be a lone wolf sniper, well, no, you can, but you got to salvage like a real sniper would. You got to run out, find the dead bodies like a vulture, take their ammo, go back to your nest and start sniping some more. Now, speaking of squad support stuff, everyone can now do what is called a long heal. So medics are still really important, in fact, more important than ever, because without a medic, your health can't go back to full 100%. If you take real bullet damage, you won't be able to regenerate up to 100. A medic will have to do that for you. However, if you go down and there's no medic around, maybe your medic just died, it's you and your medic who just went down actually, stuck in the corner of a building as bombs go off all around you, you can do a long heal and resurrect that medic, resurrect that member of your team. A lot of games do this, and I'm happy to see Battlefield stepping into this. I think this is going to be a nice mechanic for squads that play really tight. It's going to give you that additional option for revives, again, when the medic goes down, when the medic's just, you know, missing in action. They also talked quite a bit about how they're handling squad leaders this time around. So the squad leader role is just as, actually, it's more important than ever. I was going to say just as important. It's more important than it ever was in Battlefield 1, because now squad leaders can create objectives, and when the squad completes those objectives together, they unlock squad points that are then used to call in special drops, special vehicles that can only be used by your squad, special supply drops, smoke barrages, and there's even a V1 rocket you can call in to punch through enemy fortifications. The cool thing about this new squad leader system is if, say, your squad leader, some random player on your team, isn't really calling out objectives, he's not really doing his squad leader role, but you decide that you're going to start marking objectives, because anyone can mark an objective in this case, the game will actually recognize if you're taking the initiative and automatically switch you to the squad leader role. I really like the idea of this for people who are just completely blowing off squad leader. You can kind of just fill in without having to worry about actually being able to communicate with that person. Now, Game Informer also briefly cites changes coming to the spotting mechanic. You're not going to be able to spam the button any longer, but apparently we're not going to see more on that until E3. Moving on, we've got the addition of a brand new tool in the form of the toolbox. So the toolbox is essentially replacing the gas mask of Battlefield 1. Everyone has a toolbox. This toolbox allows us to repair things, but more importantly, it allows us to build the brand new fortifications within the fortification system. This includes things like sandbags, anti-tank barriers, even resupply points at flags, foxholes, machine gun nests, and if you do run the support class, you're actually going to get a boost to building like the machine gun nest, repairing the machine gun nest, or building the resupply points. So certain classes are going to have small bonuses depending on what they do within the toolbox. That's really exciting. You know, destruction is awesome, but the idea that we now have the ability to sort of build back up some of that destruction, specifically around objectives, flags, and conquest and stuff like that, I think is going to add a very interesting layer to the overall experience. I'm concerned about some of the ways in which fortifications might be able to be abused, especially when we start talking about like barbed wire and stuff like that, but I'm hopeful that it just ends up being a system that does everything it can to add to the Battlefield experience. Moving on, we start to get into the realm of individual soldiers and customization. So we've got a new system called the Company. The Company is essentially your selection of custom-built soldiers and classes. This includes visual customization and physical customization. So let's say you create a medic class. You can then customize that soldier, male, female, with a variety of different custom camos, face paints, skins, dog tags, weapon skins. They even talked about custom paint jobs on your weapons, so potentially just a whole slew of custom camos for weapons as well. Basically create your idea of what a soldier should look like. The thing I like about them going really deep with the customization element here in World War II is it reminds me so much of the sort of cinematic storytelling experiences that we've got in film with World War II. For example, Kelly's Heroes. Donald Sutherland's character is a very eccentric tank unit leader, and his whole unit puts loudspeakers on their Sherman tanks to scare the Germans. They play music very loudly, and they even put fake barrels over the Sherman tank barrels to make it appear as if they have larger caliber firepower than they actually have. That was sort of the vibe I got from the reveal trailer, seeing soldiers with, you know, their own jackets with their own sort of, you know, custom-made squads on them and stuff like that. We even see a female British soldier who appears to have lost her left hand and has a prosthetic in place of her hand. It's so cool, man. Not to mention she had a cricket bat with like some barbed wire wrapped around it. I love that idea of visual customization here. I love the idea of being able to build your own soldier and sort of take them on a journey with you in multiplayer. And that was another thing that they stressed, unlocking cosmetics, unlocking actual weapons, equipment for the classes. It goes back to the days of older Battlefield where you just play. Plain and simple, you play the class you want to play and you'll unlock stuff for that class. You play with that weapon, you'll unlock stuff for that weapon. I like the direction they're going with this. I'm glad we're not going to see some sort of a currency-based system like we got inside of Battlefield 1, which was a whole bunch of nonsense and useless grind. Really looking forward to the direction they are taking that. Now, they also stressed extensively that they are doing no premium pass. This game isn't going to be pay to win, and we've got good news from Game Informer on this. Yes, they are going to sell certain face paints, certain cosmetic items for real-world currency. That's how they're going to monetize the game long-term. Obviously, they need to do it in some way. Here's the good news, though. There's actually going to be a lot of content that you can only earn from completing challenges in-game. And any of the stuff that is sold for premium currency isn't actually sold for premium currency. You just buy it straight out with real-world money. There are no battle packs here. There's no crate system. There's no buy this many gems and then you can buy this in-game weapon. If you see a face paint that releases alongside of one of the free updates, since there's no premium pass, and it is a premium face paint, you'll just buy it straight out with real cash, much like Respawn did with Titanfall 2. It's almost as if DICE and EA learned something from Respawn getting acquired. It makes me so happy. Like, this is how it should have been. People will pay for this stuff. Hopefully they looked at Fortnite and they realized that people are paying $25 for premium skins in that game. You can sell a few face paints every month and you'll make enough money to profit. Trust me, it's going to work out well, and a lot of us are going to be very happy about not feeling required to buy a bunch of stuff we don't want, and more importantly, the ability to actually buy the stuff we do want directly if we decide we want to support the game monetarily. Very excited about that. Now, they are still doing live services. Basically, throw away the premium pass, and now we're going to get regularly released content. In fact, the first piece of content is called The Fall of Europe, and it's going to be dropping in November, just 1 month after the game's launch, which is going to be October 11th, I think they said. So like the second week of October, we're seeing the release of the game. This Fall of Europe is going to be one of many chapters, essentially thematic events that takes us through events that happened during World War II. These events will be not just acting as DLC, but again, acting in some cases as timed events within those events where the players who participate will be able to gain access to special loot from that event. It's kind of like Overwatch does with its different events. So, so Overwatch has like its Christmas event, so on and so forth, except we're just getting a bunch of stuff that happened in World War II. So it expands the overall multiplayer experience. It gives us a bit of a cinematic experience on top of that, while also expanding the loot pool and keeping the game alive and interesting, hopefully, year after year after year. I'd really like to see DICE dedicate themselves to building on this and not just throwing away the game after 2 or 3 years. Like, let's run with this. Keep adding to this. Let's build a really strong format here, a really strong platform, and let us play Battlefield for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I'm fine with that if they can make it kick-ass, year after year with content like The Fall of Europe. We'll have to see how that all plays out. But I'm excited about the general direction they're taking their live services. No premium pass. Really happy to hear about the way they're monetizing the game. That's how you do it, DICE and EA. Really serious. I'm not going to pat EA on the back ever, but I feel like this is what DICE wanted to do with their game for a long time now, and they finally get to do that, and that excites me. Now, they also talked quite a bit about some of the new modes, specifically Grand Operations. Grand Operations is the evolution of operations from Battlefield 1. Rather than it being 1 day's worth of a larger operation, we actually have 4 days here. So this is up to 4 separate matches within one larger match. Each of these 4 days is going to have its own mode. So for example, day 3 is Conquest Assault, and then if you do make it to day 4, which by the way only happens when there's a stalemate between both teams, you're going to go into what they're calling Last Stand. This is a very low resource experience where resupplies are limited, ammunition is limited, and it's kind of like last man standing, who can survive. The battle has come down to a grueling end, who will be victorious. I'm really excited about Grand Operations as someone who really loved Operations in Battlefield 1 and felt like it could only get better if they just found new ways to expand that experience. I think this is going to be the answer to more long-form Battlefield. A lot of people want matches that last an hour plus. Hopefully Grand Operations will be just that. They also touched on co-op and war stories. Co-op more than war stories. All we know about war stories is they're making a comeback. Single player, that's going to be the single player experience. Co-op, though, we're getting co-op for the first time since Battlefield 3 with what they're calling Combined Arms, which is really all about you and your friends reliving the events of a specific unit. They talked about the paratroopers, for example, and they talked about there being, again, that focus on scarcity here. So actually having to make combat decisions in what are hopefully going to be more sandboxy type environments, I would hope, where you might decide not to engage enemy units because you're low on supplies. They're also going to be doing some storytelling within those co-op units, much like they do inside of war stories. There's a lot. There's so much, guys. And that reveal trailer, albeit quite short and only featuring a few moments of gameplay, was really impressive in my opinion. It did demonstrate a lot of the mechanics we talked about here today, and it also had a very interesting aesthetic and atmosphere to it. It seems like this is the first time that we're seeing the Frostbite engine, the sort of color palette, again, the overall audiovisual presentation of Battlefield really overhauled. Now, I imagine a lot of that was exaggerated for the sake of the trailer, but I'm looking forward to seeing just how much of that stays intact with the gameplay that we'll hopefully be seeing in the coming weeks. They did talk full multiplayer gameplay at EA Play, at E3, which is not far from now. Keep an eye on that. I'll definitely be talking about that gameplay once we see it. Here's my thoughts, guys. There's a lot of really positive changes here. Predictive recoil, no more random weapon patterns, scarcity, a bigger focus on the value of squad play, the improvements to the core movement system, the explosions, the destructive systems, I should say, bullet penetration. I'm liking a lot of the stuff we're seeing here. These are positive things, and there's also some things here that are clearly in the name of improving the overall fun factor of the Battlefield experience. And if you know me, even as someone who started playing Battlefield during Battlefield 2, I like the skill-based stuff. That's where predictive recoil comes into play. But I like the idea of DICE making this a bigger and just more expansive experience, creating small gameplay decisions like full 360 prone that really enhance the gunfights, that enhance the gunplay, that give us more opportunities for those Battlefield moments, for those intense, fun firefights. I love the idea of the whole slipping on wet rocks in mud thing. Just stuff like that, just, you know, I don't want to say immersion, but yeah, I gotta consider the type of terrain I'm about to run on before I cross the road, then yeah, this is the Battlefield game that I guess I'm personally looking forward to. Is it a Battlefield game that you're personally looking forward to? I don't know. You'll have to let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
You have been brought here for a purpose, the most important task of your lives.